Okay, so have you ever really sat down and tried to figure out what animal would be like your inner self? You know what I mean?
Yeah, like your demon, right? Like
Yeah.
from his dark materials?
Exactly. That always just gets me thinking.
Oh, absolutely. It's such a powerful image, isn't it? Having this part of your soul just right there beside you.
Totally. And you know what? That's exactly what we're diving into today, all thanks to you.
That's right.
You sent us a ton of stuff about his dark materials, like so much to work with. We've got online discussions and academic papers and reviews, and of course the books themselves. It's amazing.
Yeah, we're really excited to unpack all of this for you.
So our goal today is to pull out the coolest, most interesting parts of this world.
Definitely.
We want to explore what demons really are and follow Lyra's journey as she grows up, and then all the big ideas that Pullman's trying to get across.
And we're going to do all of this without getting lost in the weeds,
Exactly. We don't want to bore you with a bunch of tiny details.
No, just the good stuff.
So to be super clear, we're focusing on what makes demons so important and how Lyra's character is unique, and then how Pullman deals with authoritarianism.
Right. And then we'll tie it all together with the big picture messages of the trilogy.
Sounds good. So demons, they just fascinate me. From the very first page of Northern Light, we're in a world where every single person has a demon.
Yeah, this physical living being that's like an extension of their soul.
Right. And they almost always look like an animal.
And what I find so fascinating is that when you're a kid like Lyra with Pantaloon on, their demons can change shape.
Oh, yeah, totally.
They shift and change, just like a kid's personality is always evolving and changing as they figure themselves out.
It's like they're trying on different selves, right?
Exactly. And it only when you become an adult that your demon settles into one fixed form.
Which makes you think, right, about how we kind of settle into ourselves as we grow up.
It really does.
And this idea really stays with people even years later.
I bet.
We saw this comment from a Reddit user, Axnid. They said they read the books over 10 years ago, and they're still thinking about what their own demon would do.
That's so interesting. It's like it taps into this deep curiosity about ourselves.
Totally. It makes me think about all that stuff going on beneath the surface, like our subconscious.
Yeah, that hidden part of us made visible.
Exactly. And it goes beyond just wondering, we found this article in the CLALE journal.
I saw that one.
It talked about this really cool exercise where these future English teachers had to draw their own demons.
I love that idea.
Me too. And one teacher who had been teaching for a while, they pictured a wolf.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And they connected that with qualities like stamina and always striving to achieve, even though they felt pretty secure in their job at that point.
Which is interesting, right? Because you don't always associate teachers with wolves.
No, not really.
Yeah.
But it shows how complex this idea is, right?
Yeah.
It's not just about surface appearances.
Exactly. And the article talked about how vulnerable this exercise made people feel.
Oh, yeah. It was like they were putting this really raw part of themselves out there for everyone to see.
But then that vulnerability actually helped them feel stronger and more confident in themselves.
Totally. It was like they were solidifying who they were as educators.
It's so powerful.
Right. And the article even connected this to the themes in Northern Lights, like independence and freedom and personal growth.
Yeah. It's like by imagining their demons, these future teachers were engaging with these big ideas on a much deeper level.
Totally. Makes sense.
And it made me wonder if our settled demons maybe say something about how society influences us too.
Oh, that's interesting. Like maybe our demons reflect not just who we are inside, but also how the world sees us.
Yeah. Or how we think the world sees.
That's a good...
So moving on to Lyra Belacqua.
Oh, yeah. She's such a good...
One of the best.
For sure. And Darkness Visible described her perfectly as an orphan who basically invents herself.
That's spot on.
Which is so different from a lot of other kids in books,
Right? So many fictional kids have these loving parents who are super involved in their lives.
Totally. But Lyra doesn't have that, so she has to be independent.
And Darkness Visible pointed out that this independence is a big part of what makes her such an interesting character.
I agree. Because you're constantly wondering what she's going to do next.
It makes you wonder, too, how much our early experiences shape who we are, especially when we don't have that traditional family structure.
That's a really good point.
So we know Lyra's an orphan, but it's almost like Pullman was working towards this kind of character for a while,
How so?
Well, Darkness Visible mentioned this earlier book of his, Count Karlstein.
I've never read that one.
It's a children's book with illustration, and there's this character, Hildy, who's really brave and resourceful.
Oh, so like a younger version of Lyra?
Exactly.
Oh.
So it seems like Pullman was thinking about this kind of strong, independent, young protagonist for a long time.
Wow, that's fascinating.
It is.
And then when we first meet Lyra in Northern Lights, she's living at Jordan College, and her education is kind of all over the place.
Yeah, she knows about some pretty advanced stuff like atoms, but she doesn't know basic things about the solar system.
Right. It's like her learning has been driven by her own curiosity and whatever the scholars around her happen to be talking about.
Exactly. Which suggests that real learning doesn't always happen in a straight line, you know?
Totally. Sometimes it's messy and unpredictable.
Absolutely. But even though Lyra has these gaps in her formal education, she's incredibly smart and resourceful.
Oh, yeah, for sure. We see that when she sneaks away with the Egyptians and when she figures out how to deal with Ioric Burnison.
And even in her early interactions with Mrs. Coulter.
Oh, yeah, Mrs. Coulter. She's such an interesting character.
So complex. At first, she seems like this amazing woman who's going to take care of Lyra.
Right, like someone Lyra can finally look up to.
Exactly. But then we learn that she's actually manipulative, and she's involved in this horrible thing.
Oh, yeah, separating kids from their demons.
It's heartbreaking. And Lyra's bond with Pantaleimon is so strong that she completely rejects this idea.
She's not going to let anyone take Pan away from her.
Nope. Not a chance.
Yeah.
Which brings us to the bigger conflicts and themes in the trilogy.
Okay, so let's talk about the Magisterium.
This powerful church that basically controls everything in Lyra's world.
And they're terrified of dust.
They want to control it or even eliminate it altogether.
And that fear drives a lot of what happens in the story.
It does. But John Perry makes a good point in Darkness. Visible Pullman isn't just criticizing organized religion.
Oh, he's going after all kinds of authoritarian systems.
Exactly. Any system that tries to control people under the guise of helping them.
Which is a really important thing to think about. You know, power can be so dangerous when it goes unchecked.
It really can. Then there's Lord Asriel, Lyra's father.
Who's basically rebelling against God.
Right. The authority, he wants to build a bridge to other world.
That's a pretty ambitious goal.
It is. And Darkness Visible compares him to Satan in Paradise Lost.
Oh, wow. That's an interesting connection.
Right, because he's defying this established power, but he could also be causing a lot of destruction.
Like that whole thing with the master of Jordan College trying to poison Asriel.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah. He was so scared of what Asriel's explorations could unleash.
Which makes you think about the balance between scientific progress and the potential consequences.
Totally.
Like, how far is too far?
A really important question. And while all this is happening, Lyra is trying to figure out her own sense of right and wrong.
She's got a lot on her plate.
She does. But Darkness Visible pointed out something really interesting about disobedience.
What's that?
It said that disobeying parents or parent figures who are doing bad things isn't something to feel guilty about.
Oh, wow. That makes a lot of sense, especially for Lyra.
Right, because both Mrs. Coulter and Lord Asriel are doing things she doesn't agree with.
So she has to make her own choices.
Exactly. She can't just blindly follow them because they're her parents.
And then there's this idea of Lyra as a kind of modern Eve.
That's a really thought-provoking idea. Yeah. Darkness Visible suggested that her experience with sexuality could challenge the church's control over that part of life.
It's like Pullman is saying that sexuality isn't something to be afraid of or ashamed of.
And that love and desire are natural and beautiful.
Right. They're part of what makes us human.
And throughout all of this, Pullman keeps reminding us that we have choice.
That nothing is set in stone.
Like Lyra talks about all those tiny chances that led her to will.
And Darkness Visible emphasized that nothing is inevitable.
It's up to us to create our own destinies.
Which is a really powerful message.
It is. And Pullman creates these incredible worlds for his stories to take place in.
Yeah, the idea of parallel universes is so cool.
And he's really good at mixing the familiar with the totally bizarre.
Like Darkness Visible talked about how he uses details from both our world and the 19th century.
Right, things like zeppelins and naphthalites.
Alongside these totally fantastical elements like the alethiometer and the demons themselves.
Exactly. And he uses these parallel universes to explore different sides of humanity and different ways of living.
And by putting the ordinary next to the extraordinary kid, he keeps us constantly engaged.
Like we're always on the edge of our seats wondering what's going to happen next.
Right. And Darkness Visible said that Pullman's main goal is to keep the reader in a state of wonder.
Which I think he definitely achieved.
I agree. It also makes you think about how our own reality might seem strange to someone from another world.
Totally. Like, what would they be fascinated by? What would they find?
Yeah, it's a fun thought experiment.
It is. And it's kind of funny because there are actually a lot of similarities between Pullman and C.S. Lewis.
You mean the guy who wrote the Narnia books?
Yeah, and Pullman is pretty critical of those books.
I know it's surprising, but Darkness Visible pointed out that they have a lot in common.
Like what?
Well, they both lost a parent when they were young, and they both spent a lot of time at Oxford.
Interesting.
And they were both fascinated by the idea of the North.
Yeah.
You know, like a magical faraway place.
Huh, I never thought about
And they both created these separate worlds where kids have to face really tough moral challenges.
like Narnia and Lyra's world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And one specific similarity that stood out to me was the idea of kids feeling guilty about a sick mother they had to leave behind.
Oh, yeah, like Diggory and the magician's nephew.
And Will and the Subtle Knife.
Mm-hmm.
It's like both authors were really interested in the burdens that kids can carry.
That's heavy stuff.
It is. And then there's the love story between Lyra and Will.
Oh, yeah. They're so good together.
Darkness Visible even compared them to Romeo and Juliet.
But their story ends very differently.
It does, in a way that's even more heartbreaking.
Because they have to separate in the end.
Right, which is sad, but it also makes their love even more powerful.
Because it stays pure and perfect.
Exactly. And Darkness Visible suggested that if they had stayed together, their love might have become ordinary.
Like they would have had to deal with all the everyday problems of being in a relationship.
Right. So by separating them, Pullman keeps their love story as this ideal.
And it reinforces this idea that true happiness comes from within and from our connections with others.
Not from some perfect fairy tale ending.
And that even though their love ends in separation, it still changes them forever.
It's like their love transcends the boundaries of their worlds.
Totally. So to wrap things up, let's go over what we've learned today.
Sounds good.
We talked about the incredible bond between people and their demons, and how Lyra's journey is all about self-discovery and standing up to authority.
And we explored the wonders of parallel universes and the lasting power of love.
And we saw how Pullman challenges us to think critically about power and to believe in our ability to make choices.
He really wants us to question the world around us and to imagine a better future.
So here's one last thing to think about. What parts of you would shape your demon? What would it look like?
And how would knowing that change how you see yourself and the people you know?
We hope you'll keep exploring the amazing world of his dark materials. There's so much to discover.
Thanks for joining us.
And keep those questions coming.
See you next time. Bye.